Live on Facebook. Whoa, the world is watching. Welcome to USA Triathlon's National Triathlon Week presented by Tower 26. It is an honor to be Meg, can I call us myself the host of the week?
Yes, absolutely. You can call yourself whatever you would like, Jim.
I'm surrounded today by three amazing women joining me for a discussion about the time to try, how athletes get into the multi-sport lifestyle and then stay in the multi-sport lifestyle past their first race. Today, I'm with my co-host, I guess you say co-host / producer, Megan Milgard. Megan, how you doing? We'll get into a little background on you guys in a second. With pro triathlete and coach, Melanie McQuaid. Melanie, how you doing? And Danielle Liubicich, who is a coach, an athlete, multi-time world championship qualifier, and pretty amazing person. How you doing, Danielle?
Good, thanks.
So just a quick outline. I guess the right word is outline for this is what the National Tri Week is for USA Triathlon. So each day we're celebrating the sport of triathlon. Each day is going to have a theme. So today is time to try. How do athletes get into triathlon and stay in triathlon? Tomorrow, Tuesday, is going to be the Olympic and Paralympic day. Wednesday is going to be our swim day. Thursday is going to be the bike day. Friday is a run day. Saturday is race day. And Sunday is our community appreciation day. So every day has educational content, information, and some really good, funny antics brought to you by yours truly. Megan Milgard, our producer and CEO of Tower 26. Can I say CEO? Is that correct, Megan?
I'm not sure what the actual acronym CEO stands for in this case, but sure.
I need to get you a business card. This keeps Jim's butt in line daily. So you put all this together, really good work on putting all this together. It's going to be a lot of fun. What we're going to do is, like I said, we have a live Zoom meeting today speaking about this stuff. Tuesday, I have to look at the schedule. We have something there. Wednesday, it's going to be a discussion with myself and Coach Jerry at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And later in the day, there's a pro roundtable at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Thursday is our virtual bike day. So we've been running virtual bike workouts. So we're going to do the same thing on Facebook Live. So all the athletes out there are going to get on their trainers and lead and follow along as I lead the bike workout. Same thing on Friday. You put in your headphones and follow along as I lead a run workout. Saturday, you get some distance in and perform the race. And Sunday, we appreciate. We have a lot of prizes we're giving away throughout the week through USA Triathlon. How much money and prizes are athletes able to win throughout the week here, Meg?
In total, with National Triathlon Week, #TriWeek, over $20,000 in prizes. And Tower 26 is responsible for about 6,000 of that in total. And the grand prize is 1 year of coaching directly with you, one-on-one coaching, triathlon coaching with Coach Jim Liubicich, and Jerry's 1 year of swim subscription workouts. You also get a year's worth of AMP PR lotion to keep you training for all those wonderful workouts that Jim is going to deliver to you, as well as Jerry, to keep you going. And then we'll also be giving away a copy of Jerry's new book, Triathlon Swimming, Master Open Water Swimming with the Tower 26 Method, and some signed copies. We also have some gear.
Are they signed by me or are they signed by Jerry? Who are they signed by?
You, of course.
Of course. But then they're going to be worth a lot more money if they're signed by me.
Definitely.
And how do they register for National Tri Week?
They go to USA Triathlon, register on their site. We'll post the link here in the Facebook where they can sign up for the virtual challenge. And you can participate in Tri Week all week long without registering, but we really encourage folks to sign up for the virtual challenge. They have a competitive and a non-competitive division this go around.
So if you want information on the schedule, it's all at usatriathlon.org. And we're also going to have the information on our Facebook page at Tower 26 Facebook group, so you can follow us there. With me today is professional triathlete, coach, 5-time world champion. Is that right, Melanie? 5-time world champion, right?
Yeah, that's right.
3-time at the Xterra distance and 2-time at cross, correct?
Yes.
Yell at me if I'm
different,
wrong.
But the same.
Yep. I know Melanie will keep me in line. She if I say something wrong, she might even stick her hand through the computer and give me a slap. That's wrong. That's not right. Melanie, it's an honor to have you joining us. How long have you been a coach?
I've been coaching since 2006, so quite a long time. Yeah.
And how many years have you been racing triathlon?
Since 2000, I think I can count 2000. I did my first Xterra in 2000. So like, I think I did 2 races that year while I was still a mountain bike racer. So I think that would count as my first year. But I went I switched from cycling in 2001.
Gotcha. So you started out as a cyclist, mountain biker, and then said, you know what, forget this. I'm bored with one sport. Let me join 3.
Well, actually, when I switched to triathlon, I actually switched from road racing. I had made the road national team in 2000, and so I went and I started the 2001 season with a road team. And that's a very long story, but by the end of that season, I decided to be a triathlete instead. So 2001, I kind of spent the second half of the season just doing triathlon, and I actually joined the National Triathlon Center partway through that season. So I started as a mountain bike racer. While I was at the time, mountain biking was a different sport than it is now, and so we did quite a bit of road stage racing to be fit because the races were longer and sort of less dual slalom than they are now. And so I had done quite a bit of road racing, and it was an easy transition to road. But yeah, so I started as a mountain biker. I went to the Worlds a number of times for mountain biking, and then I raced on the road for a long time through that. But then in 2001, I switched to primarily Xterra, but I raced ITU actually for a few years, which is random.
And it's funny. We want to talk about getting into the sport. You obviously just went over a lot of stuff that we're going to get a little further into. But if anyone out there doesn't know about Xterra racing, mountain bike racing, and Danielle, I know you know this, it's intense. I mean, you just enjoy the pain. It's nonstop pain. Not that racing triathlon isn't pain, but it's nonstop pain from the moment you start to the moment you finish. Is this pain something you grew up really loving? Like, did you just go out when you're 5 years old and be like, Mom, I'm just gonna go sprint around the box 700 times? What got you into, okay, let me take up a sport that gives me the most sense of pain that I can get? What got you into that? Is she frozen? Danielle, you want to answer? You want to answer that question?
She might be frozen. Oh no, she's back.
She's back. Now she's moving. Did you catch that?
Uh-oh.
She's frozen.
Oh, there.
She's freezing. Okay. Did you get that, Melanie?
Did I get?
Okay, I think you froze.
Oh man, poor Danielle.
Okay, we're moving on to, we're going to figure out what's going on there. We're going to move on to Danielle real quick. Danielle, are you there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Danielle.
Yes.
Coach, athlete, multi-time world championship qualifier, coach at USA, or Dare to Try, which is a para triathlon group. Melanie, are you with us again?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're back to you. You froze. Okay, so back to, I'm bouncing around here like a maniac.
Okay, go for it.
This is what happens with Zoom. You just go with it.
Live, yeah.
Danielle, you're up.
Okay, Danielle, go to you.
Okay.
No, you know what? I'm the host. We're bringing it back to Melanie. Melanie, can you hear me?
Oh.
Yeah, keep going. That's okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you froze for a minute. You're back. So you took up mountain biking. You went into Xterra. What made you take on, you didn't just go right to triathlon. You didn't just go right to road racing. You said, you know what? I want something that's going to give me the most amount of pain that I could ever accept. Why did you pick those 2 sports to get into, both first cycling and then triathlon?
Well, first off, like I think that the whole concept of mountain biking and being in nature and the social aspect of cycling was really compelling. And like I went to a festival of mountain biking that was super fun on an island called Hornby on Vancouver Island, and it was just the sort of the laid back but competitive camaraderie of mountain biking that drew me to that sport at first. And I think that after I'd kind of like who cares about what happened in that career, like no matter what happened with that, what I saw with triathlon and in particular Xterra was that same sort of growing community of like outdoor enthusiasts that were really competitive but just wanted to do this sort of like off-kilter version of like an established sport. And that's the comparison that I draw between mountain biking I came to mountain biking late for like mountain biking, but early compared to now, because like I was in mountain biking more like the late 90s. And that was sort of like the heyday of that sport, where it was really growing and it became an Olympic sport, and all of a sudden it was sort of like becoming legit. And I think that in 2001, the same thing was happening in the sport of Xterra, where it was sort of still kind of its own, like, you know, like the dirty triathlon. It was like sort of a little off kilter, sort of more eclectic group of athletes that come from a variety of different backgrounds, which is a little different than sort of what road triathlon was at the time. And we were kind of like, you know, the oddballs that sort of stuck together. And so I think that that community still exists in the sport of Xterra. And I know for a fact that that was what really drew me into it, was just having this group of people that would feed that desire to be competitive, but also, you know, the wanderlust of travel, the variety of training, and it just felt it just felt like it was more about community, even though there was a lot, like, as a professional athlete, to support and celebrate like excellence in the sport. So that, yeah, I think I just kind of liked the, like, being like a little different and having that sort of like that aspect of the sport. Of course, I'm now an Ironman, so it's not like I don't love all triathlon, right? But like at the time, that was really, like, it was really attractive to me at the time.
Yeah, and then when you moved over to Ironman, half Ironman racing on the road, what made you make that switch?
I think that I just became a real fan of the sport of triathlon, and I was seeing some girls coming into Xterra that had come from half Ironman. And the Olympics. And I was sort of like, hey, you know what, they have like this road and Olympic pedigree I really admire and respect. And I was like, you know what, to sort of challenge myself to be like a very versatile triathlete. Like, I just felt like I could be better on the road than by just going and pursuing that, like, excellence across the board in all the sports. And also as a coach, it was really important to me to understand the nuances of each distance and discipline of triathlon. And I mean, if you're a coach and you're really curious about education, frankly, doing this stuff and having the capacity to do it at an elite level does give you an inside view into what is required of the sport. I'm not saying that elite coaches or like really good coaches need to have been a pro athlete to be good, but it is like an added benefit if you are a coach and have experienced some of that. So
yeah, it helps just to know what the athletes are going through, what they're going to feel. And if you've done it at the top level, then you know you can really relate.
And my experience of what works for me is not necessarily what I give to other people, but there's things about racing that you kind of only experience by experiencing it. And so that was important to me. And frankly, like, I'm still learning doing Ironmans now, and I would say like last year was one of the biggest educational, like, learning years for me for the Ironman distance in particular. And I think it made me quite a bit better a coach to have had that year. So that was more of it. I didn't want to just like, I knew that there was like a lot of difference between racing Xterra and racing Ironman, and I wanted to coach endurance freaks. I wanted to coach everybody, and so I just wanted to have like the most robust education, and the best way to get it is either doing it or mentoring in it. And so I've kind of tried to do a little bit of both, like the whole time that I've been coaching. So,
yeah,
so that was it. It was more like, let's do everything.
So true. I mean, I say that all the time. I've raced 30, 40, 50 Ironmans, who knows, half Ironmans, every single one. I'm still learning. It's like, you know, it's crazy how this sport, no matter how many you've done, you finish and you're like, whoa, that's something I just learned about myself. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of athletes don't realize when they're coming to the sport. You realize all this potential, all this stuff that was hidden inside that you would have never known if you were just, you know, sitting on your couch or, you know, playing billiards, if that became your, you know, hobby or whatever it is. But when an athlete comes to you and they say, if they're a new athlete, they say, I want to get into triathlon. Where do you have that athlete start? What do you have? What's step number one?
Like, I think that it depends on what their base sort of athleticism is to come in. Cause like, I'll get athletes that, have never been an athlete ever in their life, you know, and then they've just been so inspired by sport to come into the sport. So, for them, there's just some like actual physical literacy that has to happen in order for them to achieve some of the technical aspects of the sport. So, I'll be honest, my group isn't really a beginner group. So I generally try to point them in a direction of a group that allows them to have like a real social atmosphere, to learn by seeing other people and like what they're doing. So learn, have like an immersive environment where they can be around people. I think beginners really belong in a group environment, whereas I think as you get more proficient in the sport, then your coaching needs to be tailored more towards what you're doing, because you're not just trying to build aerobic fit, like just robust aerobic fitness and develop skills. You're trying to do specific like energy system manipulations, right? So it's more important to have like individualization as you get more experienced. So a beginner coming in who's a beginner to triathlon who ran collegiately is a totally different athlete from an athlete that like came from, they spent their whole life reading books and playing video games, and then one day they woke up and said, you know what, I want to be an athlete today. That person has like a different sort of experience coming into triathlon, and which is cool, and I've absolutely seen it. But I think that with those two athletes, one has like a lot more experience with listening to their body, understanding pacing, understanding training, like even jargon, like just the language of triathlon. And then has an easier time communicating with a coach because they have that background, versus like a complete beginner gets to learn all of this stuff fresh. It's like a different language that they learn. It's like going to another country where you just immerse yourself in these weird alien, like spandex clad weirdos that you get to like hang out with, right? So
that's how I got into it.
Not all beginners are equal. That's basically the short way of me saying that.
That's how I got into it. I was a professional ice hockey player, and I retired, and I was going to the gym, and I said, I'm just going to the gym. What am I going to do? I mean, I got these Python guns already. What do I have to work on? So I saw some guys run around in spandex. I said, hey, I look good in spandex. Let me go do that. And yeah, so I didn't know anything about it, but it's the same thing. I came from a life where I was used to coaching. I was used to following a regimen. So I came into this. I learned, like you said, all the jargon, all the weird language that we use over time. I'm still learning, but you just submerge yourself in it. But one problem that a lot of athletes have after their first race is keeping going. Sometimes it's just a bucket list. They say, I finished my half Ironman and now I'm just going to go, do whatever, buy Christmas presents that aren't triathlon related. How would an athlete after their first race, whether they come from that elite background or they come from starting out from scratch, how do you get that athlete to keep going past their first race?
Well, I think first off, you have to do your first race to decide whether or not you like triathlon, right? So like it depends on what happens.
Well, let me specify. Every athlete says this in their first race says this sucks, and then they cross the finish line.
No way.
Okay,
no way.
While they're doing it, they say this sucks, this stinks, and then they cross the finish line. They go, "When's the next one? I can't wait."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's more often the case. It's difficult, and what happens is that you finish and you have this feeling of accomplishment, and then you have this sudden desire to improve. And so I think that the most important thing with beginners is to have a mindset where you are looking towards sort of personal mastery, or have your mindset always be about this is where I am right now and this is where I want to be. So just always sort of being, it's called like the growth mindset, where you're sort of like always sort of looking ahead to improving, versus like any sort of end date, sort of like you have to get a result. So what I see, the most common mistake in triathlon that does not keep athletes in the sport is to go from one race and then to set an outcome goal. I have to finish here at the next one. And because outcome goals are very often like not controllable. You don't actually have like direct impact in what's happening with that. And so you could do everything right and still fall short of your goal. And then all of a sudden, because you set that as the goal, you feel like you've failed. When really, if you look at what you've done between now and then, you got a whole lot better. You've improved a lot. You have a lot of fun. You're fitter. Like there's all these like tangible benefits to pursuing a goal that there's no failure. It doesn't matter what happens in the race. You never fail if you're just trying to get better. And so really the way to stick to the sport and to have a long-term, big improvement is to constantly be just focused on like, what is the next step for me to get better for myself? And then to use races as benchmarks to see how much better you felt, how much better you did relative to the field, how much better you did just in terms of execution of your strategy and your plan. And then just over time start to look at, okay, like look at how much more complex and challenging my plans were, and look at how much faster I was, in this or that portion of the race. Because that is like what mastery is, right? It's like just kind of taking yourself and doing everything you can to make yourself better. And it would be really interesting to talk to an athlete like Chrissy Wellington, right? Somebody who at the time was like almost out of reach of all of her competitors, and ask her, do you think that you reached a level of mastery of this sport? And my guess is no, right? Because for somebody like that who at the time, and I mean, Danielle and it's like all these, there's new girls coming in, and I'm just talking about the women because I love talking about the women. But anyways, like they're on their own at the front, right? And so in order for them to continue to improve, they're constantly looking at themselves. If their whole goal was like, I just want to win this like Ironman World Championships, and you've done it already, and that is your only goal, like what happens when the race ends? Right? You're done.
Well, you put all this time and effort in, and then all of a sudden you do it and you're like, did I just waste all that time? And I try and make that point to athletes who do have that one set goal to cross the finish line at, Hawaii 70.3 or whatever. It's like, okay, we do 10, 15 hours a week, every week going into this race. Now all of a sudden you're not going to do that. Like, let's keep building you. And I don't really ever let them lose momentum. You don't want to take all that fitness and just go to pot in no time at all. You don't become, like you're saying, you don't become CEO in a day. You don't go from the mailroom to CEO in one race. Like, you need to keep racing, learning about yourself, practicing. So then every race you can make little gains, and keep that fitness and keep that lifestyle. Cause like you said, the community that you surround yourself with when you get into this sport, it's addictive. I mean, we surround ourselves with like-minded people, and all of a sudden, you're going to triathlon dinners where nobody's having we're having very little alcohol because everybody's got to get up and ride at 5 a.m. the next morning. So you surround yourself with these people, it becomes a lifestyle. Then all of a sudden you race and you say, I don't have that anymore. You're going to be missing something in your life.
Well, and I think my point is that, like, whether you're a beginner, like my advice to a beginner to like focus on like incremental process doesn't change. So like you continue to do just that. And that's what keeps you in the sport, whether you're an absolute beginner or you're at the top of the sport. It's all about like focusing on your own ability and your own personal mastery. So I like the way I just sort of sum it up is that you're in pursuit of your own potential. So whatever that is, and everybody's different. Some people are just genetically gifted with like, a body that allows them to be faster at this. And so that's their journey. And yours is just to like see what you're capable of doing. And that's exciting and motivating.
Yeah. It's a competition against yourself ultimately, no matter if you're the first on the podium or, 500th. You're always competing against yourself, race in and race out, and comparing yourself to the previous performances you've had. So Melanie,
if you're 500th, you're better than that dude that's still on the couch.
Totally, exactly. And I say that all the time when we're out riding our 90th mile on a Saturday morning. Like, what would you rather be doing? Suffering going up this hill, or sitting on the couch watching Saturday morning cartoons, eating a Boston cream? At times I like to do that, but when you're done with that ride, you feel that sense of accomplishment. So melrad.com is where you can find more information on your coaching. I'm going to move over to Danielle real quick, but while I'm speaking to Danielle, Melanie, we're going to grill her. So I want you to speak up, and if she says something that you need to chime in on, we're all working on this thing together, right? So I'm really upset with Danielle right now for not chiming in when you were speaking just now. But Danielle is an endurance sport coach. She coaches with Tower 26. She's a multi-time world championship qualifier at the 70.3 distance Ironman finisher. And she also coaches for Dare to Try, which is a triathlon team. Danielle, how did you get into endurance sport?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that earlier because I knew it would come up.
Well, Melanie is she underestimates her abilities. She's one of these girls that, she's just really quiet and soft-spoken, and she'll do training, and then she'll go to the race and she'll just completely rip the race, just like crush it. And I'll be like, Danielle, do you know the talent that you have? You don't even realize what's inside you, because she's such a talented endurance sport athlete, but she just flies below the radar. She's quiet. So we're blossoming her into a coach, and her abilities are so untapped in the endurance sport life. It's amazing. So how did you get into it initially?
Initially, I have a background of playing a lot of sports growing up. Actually, the first competitive sport I played was swimming as a kid in the lake, swimming between two docks with lane ropes suspended, which is pretty cool. But I was like really little when I did that. And then I didn't get back to anything. I did a little bit of running because I played, ran track while I was playing soccer, stuff like that. And the cross country coach used to just try to get some of us to switch over to cross country because I think he realized a few of us could run too, which is pretty cool. And so I always joke with him still now, like, oh, I should have listened. You're right. I liked that trail running and that stuff.
Well, you're healthy now because you didn't start too young.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Right. So I played a lot of sports. And then when I moved to California in grad school, I just randomly got this idea. I was like, oh, I'll try this triathlon thing. I hadn't ridden a bike in like years, but I had a mountain bike. So I just did a sprint try on my nubby tire mountain bike. It was a road race. I just went for it, and I thought it was fun. I thought I might die in the swim at some point, but at the end, just like you described, I thought it was fun and I want to do it again. But it was kind of busy with kind of life stuff. So I did a race here and there, and it probably wasn't until the last 5-6 years that I started racing quite a bit more.
And it's funny, I think like 99% of the first time triathletes that I speak to did their first race on a bike like that. So you don't need like the $10,000 aero bike where everybody's down with their helmet on. Melanie, I'm sure you see it all the time. You start these races in borrowed equipment. I did my first race, my brother's borrowed commuting bike, and I'm pedaling away as hard as I can. And there's these people that, I'm like, I am so much fitter than these people, and they're flying by me on their bikes, but it gets you into the sport. It gets you moving. And then you cross the line, you're like, okay, I can improve on that. So exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I didn't have anything. The only piece of triathlon equipment I had was a race belt, because I looked up and I was like, there's one thing I can get that'll be helpful, and is a race belt. So I can put my number on.
That is a key learning that athletes don't realize how important a race belt is.
Yeah. So I had that, and then everything else was just like normal stuff. So super fast transition off the bike to run, because I had no bike shoes or anything like that.
Well, you've come a long way, and it's a testament to, like Melanie and I were saying, it's consistency. One race after another, you're always improving. And as fast forward, you're in Nice last year for the World Championship 70.3, and it's amazing how far you've come. Now, you also do a lot of work with the Dare to Try, which is a triathlon group, and that's pretty inspirational. How did you get into working with them?
Yeah, I can actually credit you, Jim, for introducing me.
I'm blushing right now. That was a leading question, Melanie. I knew the answer to this. Yeah.
Way to lay that one up. But yeah,
if you didn't know this, I have a very small ego, so I never want to hear about myself.
Yeah. So when I moved back to Chicagoland, Jim's a homeland here. I was kind of in between jobs and hadn't really started up working again. I work in STEM higher education as my daytime job. And so I was here in the summertime when lots of people are outdoors doing cool stuff. And Jim said, hey, there's this really awesome group called Dare to Try. They do this amazing stuff with para-athletes. You should check them out. I was like, oh, great. So I looked to see what was coming up. And I was super lucky that they have a kids camp every July. And so I just signed up to volunteer. I'd never done anything para-triathlon. I didn't know that much about it. I showed up knowing nobody, and they welcomed me right in, taught me everything I pretty much needed to know. They're like, oh, have you ever, how do you feel about riding a tandem bike? And I'm like, well, I'll try. I've never done that. I've never actually seen one in person, but that's cool. So next thing I know, I'm like guiding a kid through kids camp, and I had such an awesome experience working with everybody that I just decided to stick around, and now they can't get rid of me. So
I love it. So for people not familiar with paratriathlon, what's some similarities between, able-bodied triathletes and paratriathletes? And then what's some things that might be unique between those paratriathletes and, able-bodied athletes?
Yeah, awesome. So one really cool thing about paratriathlon and triathlon in general is that everybody's racing the same course. So if you're thinking about events and training, everyone's, when you get to that first sprint try or whatever race you're at, everyone is on the same course. You're racing at the same time, kind of like it's same with age groupers and pro athletes. That's something that makes the sport really cool, is that everybody's experiencing the same course and the same conditions and everything that you would face on race day. And you're there, everybody has their own reasons for being out there. It's your own individual, drive and what brings you to the sport, but you're all part of the same community, which is really awesome.
Oh yeah, I can tell you, believe me. And, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the best swimmer. So we do some of these races and, some of these paratriathletes with one arm will go flying by me. And I'm like, how's that guy not swimming in a circle right now? He's flying by me. It's faster than I'm swimming.
Skills.
But no, it's really cool to be out there with, athletes of all abilities and all different, that we're all out on that same course. And Melanie, I'm sure you appreciate that, pro triathletes with paratriathletes with amateur athletes, we're all out on the same course at the same time competing.
Well, just when some of my experience is that the Olympic level paratriathletes train in Victorious, in a normal season, and Steph and Danielle trains with the national group here in town, and I had in a normal season we would have the opportunity to do like a group session at the lake, where the whole national team will come in, and then we have like everybody, like a lot of elites and amateur athletes from the community. And Stefan is he's one of the very, very best in paratriathlon, if not the best. He's got to be one of the best, because he's as fast as like our national team. Like he is so fast that like there's not like at everything, swimming too. Like he is just incredible. So the level in paratriathlon is like mind blowing how excellent these athletes are, and just his, he just again comes to the sport genetically the way he is, and then he just has this ability as an athlete in terms of focus and determination to just be like this incredible, just incredibly fast. So it's like it's amazing to see like everybody like just what people are capable of. And I think that's what's so cool about sport, is just seeing people's like character and whatever come bubble to the surface and do incredible things.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. And especially and then Danielle, I'm sure you see this all the time, that those paratriathletes, just that level of determination and focus that they have going in, it's nothing like I've ever seen in any athlete. It's pretty amazing. Have you looked at any of the athletes that you've coached through Dare to Try and said, okay, all these guys are really dedicated, but to do this, to do what you're doing in a triathlon, have you had that kind of overwhelming feeling of looking at someone and be like, that takes human courage?
Yeah, if you think about, and that kind of comes back maybe to some of like the differences that you would experience, say, rolling up to a race. If you are, if you think of yourself going on any of us, if we roll up to a race, maybe you're pushing your bike, you've got a bag that everything kind of fits in, kind of some standard equipment. But if you think about kind of the accommodations and the general just different types of equipment and things that you have to also consider if you're a para athlete, those are things that maybe the average age group or able-bodied athlete might not think about right away. So I have served a few times as a guide for a visually impaired athlete, and she's one of the elite athletes on Dare to Try. And when you think about, if you're a visually impaired athlete, maybe you're rocking up to that race, you're helping push, you've got all of your equipment, right? Everything you would need, like your swim gear, your bike gear, your run gear. But you have a whole other set of equipment too. You have tethers that are going to keep you attached to your guide. You have a tandem bicycle. So that means there's two of you on that bike, like my coffee mug. And you have this whole other athlete who is also part of your necessary equipment. And so you're not just thinking about yourself and worrying about your own race, but you're also like have to consider this other human who's also going to race with you, and hope that, it's not their race day, it's your race day as that athlete. And so but just adding another human element. Or if you think about if you're an amputee, you have a lot of specialized equipment as well. So you may have multiple legs that you're bringing that you utilize that are highly specialized for the different parts of the race. If you're a wheelchair athlete, you're pushing, not only you're in maybe your day chair, but you also have your racing chair for the run, and you've got your hand cycle for the bike, and a whole bunch of other equipment as well. So I think about just, triathletes in general, we always joke about how much stuff we have to bring to these races. And if we were just running, it would just have sneakers. But if you're a para athlete and you're bringing all these things, like to your local race, let alone traveling, like say you're flying somewhere and have to bring all of this, just the amount of things you have to stay on top of and stay organized is really impressive. And if I had to keep track of all that stuff, I can barely keep track of my own stuff. And so if I had another person as part of my equipment or all these extra stuff, I'm sure I would leave more than one thing at home.
I've gotten Aaron Scheides a few times, who's a Olympian or blind athlete, and it adds a whole new aspect to the sport, because we're running at 6-minute pace per mile, and you have to remember to tell him, okay, there's a dip right there, there's a hole there, there's a curve there. Sometimes when you're racing with Aaron, you want him to trip on that thing because the way he's yelling at you as you're going. Yeah, but you got to remember all this stuff, and if you forget for 1 second, he'd be laying on his face. So it adds a whole new aspect of the team part of triathlon, and it's pretty cool what they are, what he was capable of, and all those athletes out there, laying it on the line. And like you said, traveling with 4 different chairs to compete in, or 3 different legs, and it's pretty amazing stuff.
Packing that bike, OMG.
Yeah, that's definitely where you pay somebody to do that. I would never be doing that. Pay Danielle to come pack my bike for me. I pay somebody to pack my bike for me now. Pack my bike. Try bike transport. Take that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the way to go with it, tandem for sure.
So if we have a para triathlete, someone who's really interested in getting in triathlon right now, and they just think, it's not capable, how would they get into it, Danielle?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say kind of similar to most athletes, look at something local. Try to find kind of a nonprofit group that kind of supports. You want to find that community, kind of like you guys mentioned earlier. People come in for various reasons, but it's awesome to have the support and the knowledge. And that's one thing that's really super cool about Dare to Try, because they not only offer free programming, but there's also like equipment you can borrow, because when you think about, all that equipment we just mentioned is highly costly, and not everyone has access to all of that. Similar to we just talked about, we started triathlon on like whatever bike you could find, but imagine trying to find a specialized piece of equipment. Not everyone's going to be able to just find that. So you could look at places like Dare to Try. And so we can post like all these web links as well, because they do virtual programming. They have volunteers to support. There are other groups that specialize in things like running. So Team Catapult and things like Achilles International, that'll help support with programming and guides and matching people up, but also kind of building that community, which is great. There's a few others too. Move United is kind of a new kind of group. It's not new, but they merged kind of Disabled Sports USA and Adaptive Sports USA, which is great. Things like Challenge Athlete Foundation. So I'd say find a local group or someone that has a chapter, get involved. And if you're an age group or able-bodied athlete that wants to also learn more, I would say check them out too. Go volunteer.
Yeah. It adds a definitely rewarding aspect to the sport for all of the, the able-bodied athletes who take for granted finishing and getting their medal. So if you want involvement, I know Challenge Athletes Foundation is a good place to start. So appreciate that. Last question, both of you guys, before we move on or we end this. What's the biggest fear, Melanie first, what's the biggest fear about starting triathlon? What would you say if someone's saying, okay, I want to get into a triathlon, but I'm scared? What would be that biggest reason that they wouldn't join a triathlon?
Well, maybe I'll come at it from like more of an Xterra perspective. Like, I think the 2 barriers to entry for Xterra are some mountain bikers are afraid to swim. Like they're nervous about open water swimming, or they have phobias about sharks, stuff like that. So definitely it's finding a group and having an opportunity in a safe and like protected way to like, swim open water, because you definitely want to just experience it and get over that. And then what the other half of it is, if you're like, let's say you're a road triathlete and you want to go and do your first Xterra. I think some of the footage from earlier Xterra races, like, basically focused a lot of attention on people crashing, right? Where they would just like show the crashes because it's like Jackass, right? Everyone just wants to see with someone like wipe out. And so,
yeah,
like,
it's NASCAR. You don't watch NASCAR for the 5,000 laps that they do. You watch it for the crash.
Yeah. So and I think that footage is like highly misleading. Like, the course, in my opinion, was never really that dangerous. It was just like newer athletes making mistakes, right, that ended up like taking a header. So I think that there's a fear that like Xterra is super crazy and gnarly and I'm gonna crash and it's dangerous and all this stuff. And so I think that for road triathletes wanting to come into mountain biking, obviously you need to have a mountain bike and you need to ride it to be ready to do the race. But I think that mountain biking has evolved as a sport, and there are a lot of coaching opportunities to learn skills. And so I know that some older athletes that are like potentially closer to my age, in your 40s, would not think that you take lessons to mountain bike, that you just basically try and keep up with your buddies until you get dropped. Like, that's how we learned in the 90s, right? But the new school way of doing it is to actually learn how to operate your bicycle. And mountain biking, there's like a variety of skills involved in like handling it and riding it safely. And so just investing some time in some mountain bike lessons with a coach that has like certification for teaching mountain biking is like a major way of overcoming some fears. Because not unlike skiing, if you want to downhill ski, it's like obvious that you would take a lesson in how to operate snow skis, right, down a hill.
Yeah, totally.
And you feel a lot more capable when you feel like you're in control. And so that's similarly with mountain biking. There's a level of certification called PMBIA. It's a certification for instructors to teach like athletes how to control their bike safely. And then obviously, like, once you learn these basic skills, then you start to put them together into some maneuvers like that are like the fun bike tricks that you can do in the park. But that's what I would say, is that basically taking some lessons in how to feel in control of your mountain bike will be like a major step in like making you feel a lot more confident riding. And that would be basically the barrier to Xterra that you would overcome.
Yeah. And I think that's, just in general, swim, bike, run, like people you can go out and do it, but if you get some lessons, and it's going to feel a lot better out there performing the disciplines if you have some type of guidance as to how to do it.
Yes.
Danielle, what would you say? What's the biggest fear for athletes trying to get into the sport?
I would definitely agree with the swim is definitely a big one. That's a hurdle that you hear about a lot. Not everyone has a swim background or grew up with opportunities to swim or learn to swim. And so I think finding access to a group that can help or support. I think another big barrier is maybe not feeling triathlon and triathletes can be intimidating. So maybe feeling like you don't necessarily fit in or belong. I can say that I still feel that way rocking up to certain races. You have somebody say something, or you don't have a bike that's as fancy as them, and I don't care anymore. But I know that that was one thing that kept me from doing the first race that I wanted to do, was somebody like making a few comments about like, oh, I don't think you can do it. And I was like, what? I think I can. Like, I don't know. So that's why I'm quiet at first. I speak on the race course. But yeah, I think finding a group where you feel comfortable, finding those people who are going to support you and help you. There's always going to be people that aren't supportive, but find your community and think about, why you're interested in doing it, or finding your why. Because I think that'll keep you going and keep you coming back. People like challenges and like to keep learning. Like you said, I think those things are kind of important, and kind of keep focusing on those things, because things will get tough or things will be kind of crummy at times. But if you know why you're out there and you're having fun, and I think I always joke around to tell people like my best race advice is like to smile every mile. It's part based on science, but part also because it's supposed to be fun. So find some people that make it fun and find something you enjoy about it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it does make it a lot more inviting when you know people going to races. So find your community, whether it's melrad.com, tower26.com, Dare to Try, whoever it may be. Find a community in your area and figure out what races you guys can go do together, because then you'll feel a lot more comfortable doing that. Guys, for being guests on the first day of episodes, we're going to send you a signed copy. I'm going to sign it. Forget Jerry. I'm going to sign a Triathlon Swimming Master Open Water Swimming with the Tower 26 method, available on Amazon and velopress.com. So go to Amazon and order those if you haven't done that already. You two are getting signed copies.
Yay!
Yay, yay. All right. And then you're going to turn around and sell them on eBay for $5,000 each. But if anyone else wants it, it's about $25 on Amazon or velopress.com. Go check that out. Megan, are you still with us? She's turned off over there. I'm not sure if she's even there anymore. I don't know if we have any questions.
I sure am, Coach. Yep.
Did anybody write in? Is anybody watching us right now? I know this is going to live in infamy. This is going to live on forever on the interweb. But is there anyone inquiring as to, anything on our live stream, or should we just wrap it? Are we over time?
We have a lot of fans on, Jim, and there are a couple questions about your hair, but otherwise,
are they talking about this?
We're loving the chat.
So when I was playing, I was a professional ice hockey player turned professional triathlete, and we would call this a salad. This is my lettuce. So I'm letting my salad grow so it comes out of the back of my bucket. That's your helmet, right? So we have all this ice hockey. What's that?
The kids are calling it flow now.
This is my flow.
No longer a salad.
I say that too, my flow. If I want to keep up with the millennials, I'll call it my flow from around millennials. I'm with my age group right now.
Millennials are old now. It's Zoomers now. Millennials are old.
So the Zoomers call it flow. I call it my salad. Okay, got it.
But actually, just one more thing on bringing athletes into sport and going back, and we'll talk about you, Jim, because I know this is a good way to wrap up the
It's
podcast.
always about me.
Yeah, we'll talk about
it's always
Jim.
about me. All week it's going to be about me.
Yeah. So first off, I think that triathlon is a really good sport for women. I think that it's a healthy way for women to be active, and cycling itself is really a great sport for women because it does it's something that women are good at. We tend to have really strong legs, right? So cycling is a good sport in that regard. And what I've seen is that when we're talking about athletes coming in from another sport, sure, having women who have run before is good for triathlon because being a good runner is good. But ice hockey and rowing seem to be the two sports I see the biggest cross-training benefit into cycling. So it's not surprising that you came into triathlon and were good, Jim, because the type of energy system that you get from hockey is excellent for the sports. So hockey players out there, you're going to be a great triathlete, and rowers too. You are going to have the same sort of force production that you would on a bike. So both those two sports are really good for the sport of triathlon, and then obviously if you're an athlete, you're going to be good at anything. But I just think that it's really interesting how certain sports and what's funny with female triathletes is that there's a lot of them came from basketball, and I don't know why, but basketball seems to be a really good sport for triathletes too. So if you were a basketball player in high school, welcome to triathlon. You're going to be awesome.
There you go. That's what you're going to do till you're 75 and you retire, because we do triathlon forever. Really good point, though. I like to say ice hockey players do well at triathlon because we're nuts. We just keep going, put our head down, and go, 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 go.
Yeah.
So energy systems and mental engagement. We just kind of just go. So Meg, do we have any questions? Anything we want to cover? Or should we wrap this thing up?
Let's go ahead and wrap it up, Jim. And once again, thanks, ladies. Thanks, Jim, for your leadership. This has been wonderful, and we're really, really looking forward to getting other folks engaged based on your wonderful suggestions and experiences.
This has been great. Remember, melrad.com, correct? Melrad.com for more information on Melanie McQuaid, and she'll be ripping up courses coming this fall. Danielle, go to tower26.com, information on her coaching there. Megan, thanks for putting all this together. Wednesday, myself and Coach Jerry, we're going to be talking about the swim, 9 a.m. on Facebook Live, correct?
That is correct. And Jim will also have some live training sessions with you. So we'll have some Zwift and Zoom Facebook sessions live so that people can tune in and experience your coaching in person, virtually. So
All right.
Tuesday night, Thursday morning, and Friday morning. We'll post the schedule on training.tower26.com.
There you go, training.tower26.com. Women, thank you very much for joining. This has been very informative. All you guys out there watching, we look forward to an educational, informative, and entertaining week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.